Recently, I was approached by IceWhale to review their new Zimaboard2 single board computer. While I usually don't do a lot with single board computers, the Zimaboard 2 is interesting since it's much more powerful than something like a Raspberry Pi, and with the right accessories, can actually function as a solid, small form factor NAS. In this video, I'll be reviewing how well the Zimaboard 2 holds up running TrueNAS with two mirrored pools as a production NAS build. I'm your host, Evan. Let's get started.
Did you know I'm available for hire? If you would like a free quote, follow the Hire Me link in the video description below to book time with me one on one.
Before we dive in full transparency, IceWhale sent me the Zimaboard 2 along with all the accessories I'm going to show you in this video. However, this video is not sponsored by IceWhale. They did not see this video before it was released, and they have absolutely no say over its content. What you're about to hear is my honest assessment after actually using the Zimaboard 2 as a NAS in my home. In case you've never heard of the Zimaboard 2, it's basically just a very small computer. It's built around an Intel N150 processor, which is a quad-core x86-64 chip that can boost up to 3.6 gigs. This is a significant upgrade from the original Zimaboard Celeron N3450, which topped out at 2.2 gigs. It has roughly 3 times the processing power in the same small footprint as its predecessor. Because this is a full x86-64 processor, you get the same software compatibility as desktop CPUs. This is why we can run TrueNAS or really any Linux server distribution on the Zimaboard. The model I have here is the 1664, which comes with 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM and 64 gigs of eMMC storage soldered to the board. For connectivity, we've got dual 2.5 gig Ethernet ports, dual SATA 3 ports, a PCIe 3.0 by 4 slot, two USB 3.1s, and a mini display port. The whole package runs passively cooled with the aluminum enclosure acting as a heatsink. One feature worth highlighting is that the N150 CPU includes Intel UHD graphics. That supports Intel QuickSync Video, which means if you're planning to run Plex or Jellyfin, you can use the hardware accelerated transcoding on the CPU without needing a discrete GPU. Along with the board itself, IceWhale also sent me a few accessories that transform this from a bare board into something resembling an actual NAS. First, the 2-bay hard drive rack designed specifically for the Zimaboard 2. This gives us a clean mounting solution for the drives. Zima also makes a special Y adapter cable so that we can power the drives directly from the Zimaboard 2 itself, which means I don't need an external power supply attached to this rig. All of these drives plug directly into the back of the Zimaboard using a special short cable, which keeps it really clean. Secondly, they sent me a PCI 3.0 by 4 to dual NVMe to SSD adapter card. This is interesting because the Zimaboard doesn't actually have a dedicated NVMe slot on the board itself. By attaching this card, I can now add two NVMe M2 SSDs and run them in a mirror for a very fast pool to run things like Docker container or frequently accessed files. After all the parts were assembled, I booted up the Zima board and got right into Zima OS. While Zima OS is a good operating system, the point of this video is not the evaluation of Zima OS as a NAS solution, but rather if the hardware can run TrueNAS and function on par with larger systems. I tried to boot off of a USB drive with the TrueNAS ISO image on it for the installation and got kind of stuck. Upon the initial install, I ran into an error trying to install TrueNAS to the Zimaboard. It said, failed to find partition number 2 on MMC BLK0, which is the hard drive soldered onto the Zimaboard. I thought the issue was that Zima OS had protections on it preventing it from being overwritten. I'm still unsure if that was the case, since even after removing all the right protection and zeroing out the drive, I still ran into the failed to find partition 2 error. In the end, I had to run a command in the TrueNAS shell before I started the installer, which I will include in the video description below. Once I got TrueNAS installed, I can now log in like it's any other TrueNAS system. This is completely bare, I haven't touched anything yet, so I'm just going to walk through some of the basic steps I'm using to set up TrueNAS on the Zimaboard. The first thing I want to do is make sure all the disks are recognized. So I'm going to jump over to storage and then click disks in the top right. I'm using two 1 terabyte spinning disk drives, and I see them both here as SDA and SDB. SDB apparently I must have used on a different build for TrueNAS because I see it has a tank pool that's been exported. That doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that I see both the drives here. I also have two NVMe drives, which are part of that PCI card that they sent me, both of which are 128 gigs, and they're showing up here correctly. I can see 3 different partitions here for boot, and this again harkens back to a little bit of the issues I had with the install. This boot 0 and boot 1, I'm not sure how that's being created or why it's being created. It has no disk size. I can completely ignore it. The boot drive is this one, MMC BLK0, which is about 64 gigs minus a little bit of overhead, so about 57 usable, and that's what's being used for the boot pool, and that's fine. I'm just going to leave that there. So we're off to a good start. I'm going to want to go over to systems and then network. And the first thing I want to do is adjust the networking. I'm going to want to change the settings for network configuration first. I'm going to make this the tertiary, and then use Cloudflare and Google as my primary and secondary DNS servers. And I'm going to leave the default gateway set. This is totally fine. I'm going to click save. I'm also going to change the host name here from TrueNAS in the bottom left. I'm going to change this to Zima2NAS. This way, if I'm ever logged into this UI and another TrueNAS UI, I'm able to easily differentiate which one is which, so I don't accidentally put the wrong settings in the wrong panel. And now in the bottom left, I can see that was updated. I'm not going to build a really fast bridge. The reason for this is in the event I want to start messing around with virtual machines and I want everything to be on the same network, I want to make sure the bridge is built first. This way, I don't mistake a network misconfiguration with a problem with the actual Zimaboard. I'm going to add an interface here. It's going to be a bridge. I'm going to leave the name BR1. I'm going to assign the static IP address. Click save. I can see ENPS1 has lost its IP address and BR1 has been given it. This should work correctly. I'm going to test these changes and confirm. And I'm back in .74. It worked correctly. Let's go ahead and save these changes before it times out. And I've now correctly set up my bridge. Next step is to go to storage and create a pool. And the reason I need to do this is nothing else will work until there's a pool for data to be saved on. Let's create a pool. This is interesting. I'm getting this warning that there are disks available with non-unique serial numbers. I'm assuming they mean the boot drives. I'm not totally positive which drives are setting this off. And of course, I'm getting the warning for the exported pools on a previous disk. That's no big deal. I can ignore that. It's this one that's really interesting to me. Let me jump back to my storage and disks for a minute and see if I can see. Yeah, it's got to be these two because there's no serial number listed and all the other ones have unique serials. So I'm going to say it's probably confused of these drives. I'm not going to worry about that and jump back to storage, create my pool. I'm going to do my tank pool first. Very easy to do. I'm going to leave this as don't allow and see if it lets me continue. The following disks have exported. So I do want to use SDB, however, because even though it has an exported pool on it, I'm just going to overwrite that. So in this case, I'm going to do a mirror. And the disk size is, I'm going to pick my HDDs. And it's already got this. I didn't type these labels in. They're just built into TrueNAS. This is correct. It's going to be 2 wide, 1 VDEV of a mirror. And you can see in the top right what it's going to create. 1 mirror, 2 wide of 1 terabyte drives a piece. I know these are very small drives. It's just what I had laying around. So this is good. This is going to work. I'm going to save and go all the way to review. And I'm getting the warning again that they're exported pools on some of these disks. And that's perfectly okay. Let's go ahead and create this pool. All right, my tank pool is now built and it is correct. It is a mirror of 2 wide, 1 terabyte HDDs. That's perfect. It recognizes there's 4 unassigned disks. And again, I don't want to be messing around with the MMC disks. I'm going to create another pool. I'm going to call this one apps. I'm going to click next. In this case, I'm going to do a mirror and it automatically picked my SSDs, 2 of them in a mirror, 1 wide. I'm going to save and go to review and create this pool. Now I successfully have 2 pools created. My apps pool, which is a mirror of NVMe drives, and my tank pool, which is a mirror of HDDs. Now I can start doing some serious work. Let's jump over to my containers, hit close, and now I can select the pool in the top right. I can enable my containers, and I can make sure they go into the apps pool, which is where I want them. I'm going to force the bridge into BR1 and then click save. Next, I'm going to jump over to virtual machines, and I think this is already set up to go. I don't have to do anything here. I just remember if I set up a virtual machine, which I may test on later, make sure to pick the right network adapter. But for right now, I'm going to leave this the way it is. Jumping over to apps, it says the app service is not configured. I need to click the down configuration and choose my pool. And I'm going to pick my apps pool because that's why it was built, and then click choose. Now I get the green check in the top right that says app service is running. And when I click discover apps, I'm just going to refresh the catalog once to make sure everything's up to date. And it is. I see 317 possible apps from the App Store. Let's jump over to datasets. Everything here looks excellent and ready to go. So now this TrueNAS system is ready and I can start building in apps, virtual machines, LXCs, and start really putting the Zimaboard through its paces. The first test I'm going to do is set up Dockage in an app. To do this, I have to have a data set made for all my stacks. I'm going to put everything in my apps pool for right now. Let's add a data set to apps. I'm going to call it stacks. I'm going to leave the dataset preset as generic and hit save. Now I'm just going to adjust the permissions. I want to make sure my user is root and my group is apps. I'm going to apply the group by checking the box here. I want to make sure that the apps group has all permissions, and I'm going to do that by making sure all the boxes are checked on the row for group on the right. And I don't want other to have any other permissions, so I'm going to remove these check boxes here. I'm going to click save. Now I'm going to jump into my apps pool, click check available apps, and search for Dockage. I'm going to click Dockage when it comes up, and then click install. Scrolling down, I'm going to find the network section, and I'm going to change the port number to 5001 because that's the default port that Dockage usually runs on. In the storage configuration for Dockage stack storage, I'm going to change this to host path and pick the stacks directory. The data storage I don't care about. I'm going to leave it as an IX volume because it's not really saving anything in this case. I'll scroll all the way to the bottom and click install. Dockage is now up and running. I can go ahead and click the web UI, and I'm brought into Dockage. All right, everything you've seen up until this point was weeks and weeks ago. I've been working with the Zimaboard 2 to make a lot of the videos you've been seeing lately on the YouTube channel. For example, if you just watched the video on creating a Windows 11 virtual machine, I'll click my virtual machines tab, and this is where that virtual machine actually was living. Going over to apps, I've installed a few of the TrueNAS community catalog apps. I've also installed Dockage. When I jump over to the web UI, you can see I've messed around with a bunch of other Docker containers. The goal of this was to try and really stress the TrueNAS system running on the Zimaboard to see just how far I can push it and just what kind of performance I got out of it compared to something like a virtualized instance of TrueNAS running on Proxmox, which is what I do a lot of my videos on, as well as my production TrueNAS build, which is running on a bare metal hand-built server in my basement. Comparing all three of these, I'll be honest with you, you'd be hard pressed to tell which one I was on. In fact, I give the Zimaboard a slight edge because of the way the storage works. I don't actually use NVMe drives in any of my machines. This is the only NVMe drives I have in my entire house. So to put the apps pool on a pair of mirrored NVMe's was actually a very nice experience. It does feel very snappy. In my opinion, if you wanted to actually try and run a full-on NAS with the Zimaboard 2, you would be pleasantly surprised to see that you can run containers, virtual machines, and full Docker applications from either the TrueNAS apps catalog or just through Docker YAML compose stacks on Dockage and be totally fine. It's a very small package and it's deceptively powerful. The thing that I like the most about it is with the N150 chip that it's built with, I can run Jellyfin with something like Nginx Proxy Manager or Pangolin, or now even NetBird as a reverse proxy and stream media remotely totally fine. I think the common misconception is you need to have a 19-inch wide 3 or 4U rack-mounted server with hot swappable hard drives to make a powerful NAS, and the Zimaboard kind of turns that on its head because the package is small enough to fit in one hand, as you saw in the pictures from the beginning of the video, and there's nothing I'm really missing. In the event I wanted to make this a very serious production build, I would definitely up the capacity of these M2 drives, and I would buy probably a pair of mirrored 20s or 22s or 24s for my tank pool, and I would have a very serious NAS. That isn't to say this isn't without controversy. The main controversy surrounds the Zima Cube. As of the time of this video, there have been 2 Zima Cubes released and 2 Zima boards. The product I'm reviewing is the Zimaboard 2, but when the first Zima Cube came out, there were some issues with it being abandoned by IceWhale. Jumping over to the Wayback Machine, this is from October 5th, and we can see the Zima Cube is out of stock. After October 5th, 2025, it never came back in stock, despite community outcry for wanting this product. There's another issue with the BIOS. The BIOS page said it was last updated on January 8th, 2026, but it looks the exact same since November 13th, 2024, which is the page I've shown you here on the Wayback Machine. The BIOS files appear to not be touched since May of 2025, and overheating issues were quickly found by the community and swept under the rug by offering a free ticket to redeem an updated cooler, and only on the forum post and never actually in an email to any of the people that bought the Zima Cube. Looking at the links I put on the screen, we can see there is a history of IceWhale just not being direct with the people who bought the thing that they crowdsourced. This kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth for people buying future items from IceWhale, and I totally get the people who have a little bit of reservations about buying something from IceWhale after the way the Zima Cube debacle went. Before this video can be released, IceWhale, not in an email, but in their Discord platform, told everybody that there was going to be a price hike on the Zimaboard 2. I have the 1664 model, which went from $299 to $349, and this is basically how I found out. I was never informed of this price hike either. Not long after that, IceWhale announced the release of the Zima Cube 2, which is supposed to address a lot of the issues from the Zima Cube 1. Many other YouTubers have covered the announcement of the Zima Cube 2, but nobody so far has gotten an actual sample yet, and if they have not released their video at the time of this recording, so I can't actually speak to whether or not the Zima Cube 2 is going to address all the issues that were brought up in the Zima Cube 1 that I just went over. All in all, I was pleasantly surprised with the experience of the Zimaboard 2. I truly believe it could be a replacement for a full-size, either rack mount or desktop size NAS solution. If you can get by on just 2 hard drives with 2 NVMe drives in terms of storage space, this can very well be a welcome addition to your Homelab. There is definitely some reservations on my side from the previous behavior of IceWhale surrounding the Zima Cube, but as far as I can tell with the Zima board, I didn't see any issues that were jumping off the page at me that would make me think this is not a recommendable product. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the Zima board, some of the previous issues from IceWhale, whether or not you had the Zima Cube and you're one of the people affected by the issues that I brought up, and what you think about doing small size home labs. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe below so you get all the updates when we release videos. Give this video a like if you liked my review. To see some of the videos that YouTube won't let me show you, make sure you jump on our Patreon channel. There'll be a link in the video description below. If you want to have a longer conversation with us about the Zima board or anything Homelab related, make sure to jump on our Discord server. I'll put an invite link in the video description below. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, stay curious.